Is Africa in the midst of a creative revolution? And are Africans in the diaspora leading the pack when it comes to creativity? How would you define creativity? What makes one to be considered a truly creative person? Why is it special being an African creative in this era? The ideology of taking African creativity to the world has truly served as a driving force behind a lot of artists of African descent pushing the boundaries, changing trajectories, and redefining, changing or expanding the narrative. This year has been deemed the year of the return. Several Africans in the diaspora are making this return a possibility for various reasons and through various means. On this episode, we explore the theme of being a creative African in the diaspora, and we also chat with some creatives behind an interesting initiative called ThinkAfrica. Stay tuned.
And reliance on opioids has led to the worst drug crisis in American history. That's why the CDC recommends safer alternatives like physical therapy to manage pain. Physical therapists treat pain through movement, hands-on care, and patient education. No warning labels required. Pain is personal, but treating pain takes teamwork. When it comes to your health, you have a choice. Choose more movement and better health. Choose physical therapy.
Africans are everywhere and are making waves. Time to end the negative narrative and tell our own story. Africans are not made up of the single story negative narrative and image the media has portrayed for decades. There are over 200 million people of African descent throughout the world living outside of Africa, known as the African diaspora. The diaspora has a role to play because rebranding Africa is going to require a collective effort. This is Africa's Triumph series, where we tell the trial to triumph story of people of African descent. We profile the trailblazers, movers and shakers, business personalities, and change makers of the diaspora. An interview series to inspire the African and cosmopolitan millennial to keep pushing for that next level.
Welcome back. Africa's Triumph is a show where we uncover some of the continent's best at the top of their field. I'm your host, Adedayo Fashinu. Today, joining me as a co-host is someone who is truly an Africanist. It's the 1/4 of the Africanist podcast.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kwaku Mental. Thank you for allowing me to join you today, Adedayo. Today, it's all about talking about creatives in Africa.
Okay, so Kwaku, I know you are here as a host, but can you also tell us about Africanist podcast?
Sure, definitely. Our podcast is made up of 4 first-generation Africans, and we are just telling our stories, and we are giving the opportunity to others to also tell their stories now.
Wow, this is really, so how long has Africanist podcast be on air for?
5 years this year.
Okay, well, let's get on to our show. Yeah. Our guests today are going to get us to think about Africa in more unique ways than the norm. So in 2016, they began curating trips back to Africa with a mission to not only connect the diaspora, but to also help the world realize how similar we are to one another. With a strong brand name as ThinkAfrica and with a mission to connect young professionals in the diaspora to Africa, we have the pleasure of having the ThinkAfrica team as a guest today. So welcome, guys.
Thank you for having us.
So can you introduce yourselves before we move on?
Go ahead. Sure thing. So my name is Tunde Ogunsalu, and I'm a founder of ThinkAfrica. Yep.
My name is Kofo Olamide, and I'm also a co-founder of ThinkAfrica.
Oh, wow. Good to have you guys in the house today. So what inspired ThinkAfrica? Like even just the name, right?
Yeah, I'm curious as to the think part, of course. Mm-hmm. And I mean, of course, Africa is very, we know the continent. So why the think in front of it?
Yeah. So, I mean,
go ahead.
I can start it out. I mean, there's stories behind it, but just to keep it simple, I just feel like Africa has been slept on for so long, It hasn't been seen as an option. And, our thing is just in all things that you see and all things that you do, I just come to learn that, a lot of it has been done first in Africa. So, I mean, it's like when you decide to go about these things again, just think Africa, figure out how you can go back to the source and get that and kind of insert it in what you have going on today.
That's dope.
Yeah.
What's been your favorite part of having this brand, ThinkAfrica?
Yeah, the journey.
Oh, wow.
I feel like so we have a pleasure, or we have the opportunity to take people back to the continent and show them, you know, a place that either they've never been or they haven't been in ages, right? They never thought or perceived that it is what it really is, right? So when we get them back, it's just seeing their reactions, you know, from the first day.
Yeah, from coming out of the airport. That's the best part.
You know, you see like a sea of black people, and oftentimes you feel as though it's like you're scared, you know, you're intimidated, right?
Overwhelmed.
You know, you go from that overwhelming feeling all the way to this like feeling of renewal, like a restoration of confidence, and sort of a whole new persona that a lot of people actually come back with and remains with them, you know, throughout you know the rest of their life, I would say.
I'm going to take us back a little bit, right? So you're the founder of ThinkAfrica.
Yes.
And so how are you and Kofo related? And when you brought the idea to Kofo, what was, because this is really a creative brand in itself. So just tell us the background story of creating this.
So the background story is I pretty much wanted to go to Nigeria sometime around 2015. All right. At this point, I was like 24, 25. I was making decent money, and I was like, you know what? I'm a man. I'm living by myself, you know. I want to go back to Nigeria.
Yeah.
So I told my parents I was going back, and they were like, well, you know, we're not going back, so you can't go. You know? And I was like, me, I can't go. So, you know, initially, you know, the idea started flowing. It's like, how do we go back? I want to buy real estate. I want to do this. And I shouldn't have to wait on my parents to do these things. So it started out with just a trip between me, Kofo, and just a few friends. It's like, let's just go back and see what's out there for us. And as other people heard that we were thinking about going back, they just decided to join on. And then suddenly we had this trip of like 15 to 20 people.
Wow.
And we're like, you know what? Let's go, and we're gonna, not only are we gonna go, this is gonna be something that we do as a business, and we'll keep recurring.
Yeah.
So this is our way of creating our bridge back to Africa.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So prior to, you said, was it 2015?
Yeah.
Prior to 2015, when last did you go back?
I had been back about 2 years prior. Okay. However, my dad was in Abuja, in Nigeria around that time. So, you know, I like to think that I was by myself, but at the end of the day, if anything went wrong, my dad was there. You know, he was with me.
Kofo, how about you?
For me, just like he said, I was looking for an excuse to go. So once he brought that idea to me, it was like, I can tell my parents, oh, Tunde's going, he has this organization, and they'll say, oh, Tunde, okay, you can go.
So you guys are friends from childhood, or?
Yeah,
okay. I was trying to like get down to the root of that. Yeah, go ahead.
Prior to 2015?
Prior, I probably went back to Nigeria when I was like 4.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it was definitely with my parents. It was a bit of a culture shock. It was more so like, wow, this is where my people come from. Like, they came through here to come to America.
I should say though,
Yeah.
Kofo assimilated very well. He fit right in.
So it's like there's a wave, right? It's like the diasporans are thinking about Africa more today than ever.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I think it's more so people thinking of themselves as African first.
Oh, okay.
As opposed to thinking of Africa. And once you think of yourself as an African, it's the next step is to go to Africa. So, you know, that's where, for me, that's where the branding of Think Africa comes from, thinking of yourself as an African, no matter where you are, Europe, Canada, US, wherever.
What's your favorite part about going home?
The air, the food, the people, just nobody mispronouncing your name. They know your name even better than you.
Yeah.
Just everything, and just feeling comfortable in your skin and being yourself, your true self. You're not being too loud, or you're not being too African when you're in Africa, no matter what country you're in. You know what I'm saying? So
when we did our pilot episode, one of the first line I remember when I wrote the script was, Africa is not a country.
Right.
And that's the first, it's like, stop being ignorant about it. So when you talk about Think Africa, what are the countries you guys are beginning with in Africa, and where do you see yourself, expanding to? And also, like, can you just tell us how does the magic happen? Like, how do you gather young people together to make a trip?
So we started in Nigeria, obviously, because most of us are Nigerian. So we kind of already have some connections there based off of family and stuff like that. So it makes it a little easier.
Okay.
But you know, this year we're going to Ghana as well as Nigeria, and we'd also have sites in places like Kenya, Rwanda,
Oh, wow.
Ethiopia, and even in the Caribbean as well, because that's part of the diaspora too.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's.
Wow, that's really, what do you think? Like,
I want to commend you, gentlemen. I know such a journey is not an easy one to make, but you're making the right effort. Let's talk about some struggles, though. I know it's not easy, and I know money is always something. But aside from money, what struggles come with keeping ThinkAfrica afloat?
Well, as far as the trip specifically, beyond money, it's kind of the hassle of everything that comes with just traveling to Africa, whether it's vaccinations, visa processes, just all of that. People not being familiar with those things and how it works. Accommodation hasn't really been a struggle. I don't really think that's been too much of a struggle. Maybe negotiating the price, but outside of that, it's not really been that bad per se. Because once we get there, everything is pretty much fine and runs itself. But as far as a struggle, I would say like all those intricate details that you don't really think about when you're just going to California or wherever else, like it makes it harder.
Yeah.
And how were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to add in, you know, the magic happens a little different, you know. Here you can like send an email and say, look, I want 10 bedrooms on this day. But, you know, when dealing with, you know, our people, there's just a different way about doing business. You have to be on people, you have to be, you know, aggressive and on it, you know. There's no, it's looked at as not being serious to just, you know, lackadaisically put in a request for something. So you really have to like, you know, follow up behind every intricate detail, I would say.
So walk us through the process of, I'm a young person, I haven't been to Africa since, or Nigeria where I'm from, since 2006, let's say. So let's, how would I be a part of ThinkAfrica?
So before we go forward, you're long overdue for a trip, so we gotta talk about that. You know, we need you to stop thinking Africa, thinking Nigeria more specifically. But yeah, so the process, a lot of people connect with our brand initially from some of our happy hours and our events. So the way that we do it, like, you know, it's more beyond just a trip. So really trying to build a network and a group of people, sort of like a tribe, right, on both sides, right? And when I say both sides, I'm thinking in the diaspora and in various countries in Africa, right? We want to have a base on both sides. So most people connect with our brands through either our media content, our events, or they've word of mouth, or they've seen or heard about our past trips. So, and what we try to do is really, from that moment, we just meet them and figure out how they fit into sort of our tribe, and then talk to them about like upcoming trips and events. And then the next thing is they start hearing about content, articles, stories, you know, getting familiar with what's going on abroad. And then the next thing is, you know, oftentimes we don't really have to sell the trips. Many people are it's just working out the details for the most part.
The interest is already there.
Okay, so it's basically like you build content around it's not just about going to Africa. It's like you get people to connect with the content from Africa, or just African content, or
whether it's African music, whatever is going
arts, fashion, things like that, food. So you connect people through, you know, cultural things, right? And then you start getting them to get familiar with Africa. So they start thinking Africa.
Just find the African within yourself, start thinking Africa, connecting with Africa, and from that point, the trip is really a no-brainer. Most people they come to us with the problem, like, look, how can we get there? The same problem that we had back in 2015. It's like, how do we go there and have a full, authentic experience?
I still want us to talk a bit more, but, you know, about maybe you have an upcoming trip, I think you do, and also just about the fact of what it takes to really be a true creative, and how you're engaging creatives and more. But we'll take a short break, and when we come back, we get to see some behind the scenes of ThinkAfrica.
We serve the entire state of Missouri.
On the west side of Chicago.
We serve families that live in Washington, D.C. Prevention is at the core, whether that's mental health, physical health, school readiness.
Drugs, alcohol, mental health, suicide,
underage drinking, and tobacco use. Marijuana, all the way up to opioids, cocaine. If it's a drug, we are there to try and prevent it.
National Prevention Week is a celebration of all the things that happen all year long.
Some of our National Prevention Week activities have been focusing on the illegal drugs, illegal use of opioids.
Prevention is about saving lives.
This is where it happens.
This is where it happens.
This is where it happens. This is Prevention at Work.
I came out in the 11th grade. Nobody was embracing you. The kids were cruel. It was very difficult to be gay. Not completing high school is more of a social thing than it was an academic thing. And even though all these years have passed, I still had that longing to have my diploma. I have a mentor, Maria, and she convinced me to continue my education. Just never judges. She's a true role model.
From the depths of my heart, I thank you, Maria, for being a friend and a beautiful person. No one receives a diploma alone, and I'm honored to share this moment with you. Thank you.
If you're even considering getting your high school diploma, go get it. You can do it.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
Welcome back. If you are just joining us, you are watching Africa's Triumph, a show where we uncover some of the continent's best at the top of their fields. We have been hanging out with the ThinkAfrica team. So you guys, we were just saying, right, about an upcoming trip you have. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so we have a trip in December. We're going to, it's actually December 21st to January the 1st. It's about 7 or 8 days. And we're going to Nigeria for 4 days, and Ghana for about 4 days. So while we're in Nigeria, there's going to be a series of events that we've already planned, from like a sort of a business cocktail hour to beach trips to, and a lot of enjoyment included. And then on the Ghana side, we'll be doing Afrochella, going to the Cape Coast, and also taking a tour of Accra and learning more about Kwame Nkrumah, the museum, and all the other things and attractions they have going on.
So, who did you connect with to, I guess, establish these trips in Ghana?
In Ghana, I mean, I would say the Afrochella crew has been very helpful. Shout out to my man Abdul there.
I know
he's
Abdul, he's a good friend.
Yeah, he's been very helpful. There's another person, Bridget Boache. So I work with her. We do a lot of business together. But just watching her content and the things that she does, she's always giving me like ideas and suggestions about what's really going on in Ghana, and then just a lot of research on the back end.
That's nice.
Yeah, and tell us, for me, just been seen everywhere, the year of the return, the year of the return. What is the year of the return?
Well, this is the 400th year since the transatlantic slave trade. So, what they're marketing it as right now is the year of the return, the diasporans coming back to Africa. Ghana really specifically is promoting this as the year of return, because that's where a lot of the slave ports were, Nigeria as well. So, that's kind of how it's being promoted to everybody, and everybody's kind of hyping it. Celebrities and everything
are I noticed that.
Hyping it too.
What is the significance of the era we're in, where Africa is like
hot?
Exactly. Exactly. Like Africa is like, it's hot. When you look at music, when you look at fashion, when you look at food, I mean.
I feel like it's all preordained, right? And I think initially at some point it was said that, there was going to be, slavery was going to last for 400 years. There was going to be 400 years of this, right? And then it's just like naturally, organically, it's like everyone is coming back into their like African spirituality, just going back to their inner Africanness, or who they really are, going back to their roots. So I feel like 400 years is the year of return. Probably, you know, a lot of people are physically going back, but we got to talk more about the people who are spiritually and mentally going back.
Oh my gosh, that's a good point.
Yeah, I was gonna say that, you know, everything always comes back to the source. You know, with the advent of Instagram and everything, we're able to showcase our culture more, and people are drawn to it. Whether it's the music, weddings, clothes, food, whatever it is, like people are just drawn to it. So, you know, everything has just come full circle all the way back around.
For me, I've been really inspired about, and I think that's why the theme for our episode is on creatives. Like you bringing you guys on as creatives yourselves, you know, just the creativity that we Africans have is, I mean, just any African I meet is doing something creative in music, in fashion even. What's your experience like when you, I guess, interact, especially through ThinkAfrica, because there are a lot of young people who, it's a community on its own, right? So what's your experience, what has it been like connecting with creatives, and who are some of the creatives that really like stand out to you?
Yeah, there's so many, but you know, I'm very drawn to music, and music, I actually connect very well with music. And right now, Burna Boy is hot.
I knew you were going to say that. I could bet $1 million you would say that.
A lot of people just got, you know, whim of Burna Boy, but, you know, I've been a fan for a long time. And I just feel like there's a certain energy, right? It's like it's really a spiritual level, you know, like where you can actually hear somebody's experience through music, you know, through sounds, vibrations, and then you can actually, you know, kind of connect with it wholeheartedly. So
before you look very fashionable, so I would ask you about your African fashion creative icon that you admire, you look up to, with someone that we should.
I mean, I'm drawn to music too. When it comes to fashion, I've just always been able to get, like, my parents and aunties and stuff, they'd always just send me clothes. And like now, more than ever, I'm way more proud to wear them than I ever was before. And you know, it's just fly. Like, our stuff is.
So, someone like Adedayo, who hasn't been back in 15 years.
Oh my God!
How does ThinkAfrica convince her to hop on a flight this December 21st to January 6th to join you guys?
The first thing first, I would ask Adedayo to come out to an event, right? Just get wind of the culture, right? You know, before you even go there physically, like just listening to certain songs, you know, dancing.
Hey, look.
You know, if you
I might not be there, but I'm there. Like you were saying, I'm spiritually and mentally connected.
You're not there yet.
So
I am.
But I would think the next step is just talking to her about, you know, some of the events and how we plan it out. And, you know, how we're kind of sort of intention about people actually having an experience, right? So a lot of people go back, they eat jollof rice, they go to weddings, and they run up and down, right? Which is cool, you know, it's good, you know, it's all love. And then, but we try to go beyond that and let people, you know, actually see truly what Africa, I mean, Nigeria or the country that we're going to has to offer, and figure out how it truly connects to you, right? So if your thing is media, we try to connect you with other creatives on ground, you know, and different things like that, that even after you come back, you'll have a network of people who you can actually stay in touch with and move to the next level.
I mean,
you know,
this is just great. It's really a community, right?
Oh, for sure.
And you connect and you link up people's, you know, hobbies and interests, right? I feel like this should be an app.
So when are you going to buy your ticket?
Yeah, you need to get your ticket.
What?
Let's talk about your ticket.
Yes, today. It's bought already. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go. You know, but we'll be back, and we have something special.
Oh, yeah?
Okay.
We have something special, but we'll be back. We have to take another break. Don't go anywhere.
So how was work?
It was 1,300 hours. My math class from 302 was in the trenches. Davy Roth had it the worst. Fractions were coming at him left and right. He just didn't get the damn things. 2 days ago, I tried to teach him what 1/4 of 1/2 was using different sizes of blocks. Yesterday, I tried again by dividing up pizza. Both missions failed.
Oh, no.
But today, I was ready. I created a combat math game where the only way to beat the enemy is to out-fraction them. Davy conquered every last denominator. My game was so successful, the principal is deploying it to math squadrons all over the school. Anywho, how was your day?
Oh, today my boss treated the office to salad wraps.
Salad wraps.
I know.
Before we leave this show, we are going to try something very fun. So just like Jeopardy, right? We're going to try something I created called AfriParty. And nobody should steal that because it's trademarked already. So AfriParty is going to be like a pop quiz for you guys.
Yes.
So I'm going to let you.
You going to let me go first?
Go first.
Okay.
So you ready?
It's usually supposed to be ladies first, but I'll go first because I'm the guest on the show today.
Okay.
Thank you for having me again. So, gentlemen, first question. This artist has the number 85 in his latest album.
Jadena.
Oh, I told you it was a record guy. So you guys don't know these questions, but yeah. Well, okay, so my question. What food has caused the most wars in Africa?
Nice one.
But
It should be a button.
You have to give me credit for that question. What food has caused the most wars in Africa? Jollof.
We actually do an event called Jollof Wars.
Yeah.
Literally, yeah.
Jollof wars. It's caused the most wars.
Yeah.
What other question do I have for you?
Okay. Burna Boy, on his latest album, African Giant, which African artist does he give credit to the most?
Fella.
Oh my God!
Nice
So
one.
we're doing well.
Yeah, I'm a big Fella fan,
right.
so yeah.
Okay, you guys have one question for us, and I don't know if we get it, but think.
Think about a question.
Yeah, real quick. We're almost out. We have like 30 seconds before we go.
I don't know. I was in answer mode. I was ready for it.
I know you guys were ready, man. All right. Okay.
So I was just reading an article.
Oh my God.
And they were talking about the safest country in Africa right now.
Rwanda.
Oh, boom! We got it. We got one for the team, yo. We got one for the team.
Nice.
So, final words to our audience, to Think African fans, and just something you got to say.
It's not too late to sign up for our trip this year to Ghana and Nigeria.
Yeah.
It's going to be a great time. We have a lot of special things planned for everybody who's going.
Okay.
But even beyond the trip, though, I would say, you know what, start thinking Africa and get connected to the culture.
Yes.
Yeah.
Stay creative.
Africa to the world.
Stay creative, guys. I love this.
Yeah.
I think it should be an app. I said it first, and I'm an investor in it. Well, anyway, that's it for our show today. We thank our inspiring guests for being here. We also want to thank our sponsors for their support. Thank you, sponsors. Thank you, guys. And yeah, that's it. Bye for now. Au revoir.
Made her college years possible, opening that education savings account when she was little, spearheading campus tours, and deciphering financial aid. If you can ace planning for college, you can do it for retirement. Get on track with tips at aceyourretirement.org.